Hi everybody, Sheriff Stephen J. here, and you'll never believe where I am today. I am standing on the edge of town here in Tombstone, Arizona. That's right, it's known as the town that wouldn't die. A very historic Old West town that's right up there with Deadwood and Dodge City. It was a silver ore mining town, and it's known as a town that wouldn't die. Why is that, you say? Because this town survived two fires, one in 1881 and one in 1882, where it burnt most of the business district down, and they rebuilt it in 6 months. But the town has always been inhabited since it began in 1878. It never became a ghost town. It was a silver mining boomtown between 1880 and 1887, hauling out around $37 million worth of silver ore. But that's not what made Tombstone famous in the Old West history books. It was the Earp brothers that brought fame to these here parts. I'm talking about Town Marshal Virgil Earp and his deputies Morgan and Wyatt Earp, as well as Wyatt's best friend, who he credited to saving his life once, and that would be Doc Holliday. So what do you say, as long as I'm here, that we talk about some of the historic facts that surround this historic Old West town of Tombstone. Now, Tombstone was established on Goose Flats in 1879 in what was then Pima County in the Arizona Territory. In February 1881, the eastern part of Pima County became Cochise County, which it remains to this day. Goose Flats is a mesa above the Good Enough Mine, a silver mine which was owned by Ed Schieffelin, the founder of Tombstone. Now, Ed set out to be a prospector at the age of 17, looking for gold and silver in Oregon, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, and California, and finally ended up here in the state of Arizona, which we know that back then was the Arizona Territory. In 1876, after being unsuccessful in his prospecting efforts, Schieffelin heard that a group of HUALAPAI Indians had enlisted as scouts for the U.S. Army in the Arizona Territory, which was establishing a camp to counter the Chiricahua Apache threat and to secure the nearby border with Mexico. He decided to head out that way since there was silver discovered in that area in 1858 by a Prussian-born mining engineer, Frederick Brunkow. Now, Brunkow had built a cabin near the San Pedro River, close to where he had discovered a small silver deposit, and he hired some men to help him mine it. However, in 1860, Brunkow was found dead, along with two of the men he had hired, and the cabin lay empty. Now, Brunkow's San Pedro mine, it influenced Ed Schieffelin to prospect the rock formations that were sticking out of the ground, also known as outcropping, which were northeast of the cabin. Now, this was a dangerous area. It was only about 12 miles from the historic Chiricahua Apache Indians led by Cochise, Geronimo, and Victorio, and they had established a stronghold in the Dragoon Mountains. But he went there anyway, and in 1876, Schieffelin and his party were attacked by Apaches, and one of the men in his party was actually killed. Meanwhile, the Army established Camp Huachuca, later called Fort Huachuca, at the foot of the Huachuca Mountains on March 3rd, 1877. So Ed joined them temporarily as an Army scout. Schieffelin accompanied the scouts on a few trips into the backcountry while prospecting part-time. He finally decided to stay permanently and explore the hills east of the San Pedro River full-time. When fellow scout and friend Al Sieber discovered what Schieffelin was up to, he couldn't believe it. He said the only thing you're going to find up in those mountains is your own tombstone. And that's because the renegade Apaches is very dangerous. They're killing a lot of people. But Schieffelin said whatever, and he kept doing it anyway. Now, Schieffelin used Brunkow's cabin as a base of operations for his prospecting. After many months, while working the hills east of the San Pedro River, he found pieces of silver ore in a dry wash on this high plateau called Goose Flats. It took him several more months to find the source. When he located the vein, he estimated the vein to be 50 feet long and 12 inches wide. Schieffelin filed his first mining claim on September 21st, 1877, and fittingly named his stake Tombstone. He ultimately went into business with his brother Al and assayer Richard Gerd, and went on to stake two more silver mine claims in the area, and he called them Lucky Gus and the Tough Nut Mines. Now, when the first claims were filed, the The initial settlement of tents and cabins were located at Waterville near the Lucky Cuss mine. By March 1879, about 100 residents occupied tents and shacks at Waterville. Former Territorial Governor Anson P.K. Safford offered financial backing for a cut of the men's mining claims, so Ed Schieffelin, his brother Al, and their partner Richard Gerd formed the Tombstone Mining and Milling Company and built a stamping mill. On March 5, 1879, U.S. Deputy Mineral Surveyor Sloan M. Alice finished laying out a new site on Goose Flats to the top of the Tough Nut Mine, which was large enough to hold a growing town. The town was named Tombstone after Schieffelin's initial mining claim. The shelters at Waterville were relocated to the new town site, and a scattering of cabins and tents were quickly built for about 100 residents. It remained the Cochise County seat until 1929, after which the county seat was moved to Bisbee. The classic Cochise County Courthouse and adjacent gallows yard in Tombstone are now preserved as a museum. Now, a boomtown was a town that grew rapidly because of a change in a political or economical environment. Now, in the case of Tombstone, the discovery of silver ore, that was the economical gain. It's kind of like the gold rush in California, which was common when gold or silver ore was discovered. It was the prospect of finding your own ore, staking your own claim, and becoming rich that drew people to these areas, henceforth the term prospector. Now, you may have heard of the Earp brothers, Wyatt Earp, Virgil Earp, Morgan Earp. There's actually 6 of them in all. One was a half-brother. Well, they were no different than anybody else. They wanted to have the better life, and they would chase around, any way to make money. Well, the Earp brothers came here in 1879.